focusing on people should be my focus, right? And people will make us successful. Now, how you do that is also a skill, but the learning I focused on was, focusing on one person a day, being more deliberate. The details matter when you're dealing one-on-one with people.
Well, today we are peeling back the curtain on what it takes to run the human engine in the giant called Siemens Smart Infrastructure buildings, and a man who demonstrates real over routine every single day, Chris Locke.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I don't really know what to expect. I didn't get any questions, so.
See, that's part of what I love and respect about you is that you're like, all right, let's just do this.
Yeah, hey, he's flying by the seat of our pants today, so we'll make the best of it.
So, Chris, before the titles and the global reach and scope of responsibility, what was the very first job where you broke a sweat and learned that like the world didn't owe you anything?
I probably learned that in my first job, or I would say I definitely learned that in my first job, and it was the value of hard work. I started at my dad as a block mason, still to this day. I started as a block mason's helper when I was, I don't know, probably 12 or 13, which is, I don't even think legal in the US. So, but back then acceptable and back in the 90s. But I started there, and what I really learned at that point was the definition of hard work, what hard really means, and back breaking labor. But in that point, what I also learned is, the things that we deal with in my world today, right? I work remotely on a computer screen, not as hard as what it could be, right?
Mm.
So I definitely took that away from my first job there. But um, and I tell my kids this all the time, that there's just no replacement for hard work, right?
Mm.
Nobody owes you anything at the end of the day.
Mm.
You show up with your own skills, and you show up with whatever you bring to the table, and do your damnedest to make the best of it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Make things
Yeah,
happen. Yeah.
exactly. Be an owner, be an entrepreneur. I tell my kids, my family, my people that I work with every day. Um, it's definitely your world to make the most of it.
Yeah. Like you have that rare screw the playbook, burn the playbook kind of
Yes.
energy. Like, where did you get the guts to act like an owner, especially in a place where, in a big company where a lot of people just want to follow the manual?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to tie it back to it. I would say it's been the collection of a lot of mistakes. Um, I've also had a lot of very strong leaders. A lot of them no longer with the company. Maybe that's an indication of something. I don't know. But I would say connecting it to one point, it's tough. I think it's the collection of my experiences. One of the things I would say, because I've had a lot of experience in my company, in my industry, is having an awareness of not like bending it all the way to the point of not breaking it.
Mm.
I think there's some boundaries there. But I also would say it's you got to be a risk taker. I read a lot. I follow a lot of entrepreneurs that if you listen to them, and these are our industrial leaders, the Zuckerbergs, the Bezoses of the world. You don't create that kind of success without taking risk. And with that risk comes a level of responsibility. So you're going to have to take the ownership. Sometimes you break a few eggs along the way. And what I like to think is learn from it. Don't make the same mistake twice. Um, but I would say, it's hard to pin it down to one experience. I would say it's
Mm.
definitely been the collection of experiences. But I'm that way in my personal life as well. I would say so. It's not a. I would say it's more of just my character and not so much my work personality than
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
Um, that just not being afraid to take risks.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because on the wingspan side of things in the business, I've been the risk taker. I'm like, oh, I don't, I'll just figure it out.
Hmm.
I'll whatever the consequences are, I'll go from there. And it's interesting because I'm willing to take those big swings. Ivan keeps me in check.
Yeah.
It's funny though, you're like that across the board. He's like that personally. He's, constantly, oh my gosh, out
Hmm. Yep.
riding his motorcycles or his boats or, doing all kinds of crazy shit. Yet on the Wingspan side, he keeps me in check because
Yeah.
like,
It, it,
let's look at the consequences
yeah.
first.
Wingspan pays the bills at the end of the day for you guys. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was interesting. That stood out to me as you were talking.
But one thing I'll say though is you talk about like motorcycle skydiving. I don't take risk there. That's one thing I don't I from
Okay.
and the reason why is I read this article about that, and I argued this, of course, that scuba diving was actually more dangerous than skydiving was statistically.
Oh,
But yet yeah, so and
well,
I feel like it's the number of people that do it. But for me personally, I would never skydive, but I would scuba dive any day of the week. And the reason why is I feel as though I have control in a scuba diving situation. But when you're falling out of the sky, if the parachute don't work, there's no control. If I can swim if I can swim to the top, even though I may not be in control, literally I feel like I'm in control. So
mm-hmm.
but I don't take risk with my life.
Yeah.
I draw the line there.
Well, yeah, when I'm out on the dirt bike, I am going very slowly.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you said it was really a collection of learnings, and I heard a lot of lessons in what you were saying. Of all those lessons, if you were to pick one, like one non-negotiable that you still live by today, what is it?
Are you talking in business?
No, personal, professional.
That's an interesting one. Can you rephrase the question for me? Help me trigger my mind a
Uh,
little bit. Yeah.
so when you look back and as you were answering the previous question around like where and how did you become that
Hmm.
that gritty business owner, especially in a big company like Siemens, where a lot of people follow the manual. Where did that come from? And you said it came from a collection of experiences and people that you worked with, and certainly there were a host of lessons along the way.
Yeah.
What's one of those lessons that you still lead by today?
Yeah. There's a time. Thank you for repeating that.
Mhm.
There's one time a mentor I have that's still a family friend mentor. It was my second job. Still in the same industry, construction. It was an installation company. And a lot of people might not know this about me. I didn't go to college, so I don't have a degree in business or leadership or any sort of degree. So it's been really much the school of hard knocks. But when I moved from construction to Siemens, I was maybe 20 years old. So very young, very arrogant, very, still a lot of the same. I'm not young anymore, but still a little bit of arrogance. And my mentor told me at the time, he's like, I went into his office and I was leaving. And he's like, Chris, he's like, I just want to share something with you. And he's like, you don't always have to be the smartest person in the room. And he's like, in your position, humility goes a long way. And he's like, and this was kind of, he didn't know where I would end up. He knew I was a hard worker. And to fast forward, he's like, you're going to be sitting in a room with a lot of people that have degrees in engineering and mechanical and electrical and business and doctorates and like people who have studied to be good at something. Uh, when you go into those rooms, you're being humble and having showing humility in those rooms is going to carry you much further than being the ego person who has to have the answer, who has to be the 20-year-old kid like we all thought we had all the answers. And that's really resonated with me. It's stuck with me for now 23 years of business at Siemens. Just but in general, right? And it's really taught me that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. It's actually taught me I rely on the people around me, not myself, to make all these decisions and answers. And there's a lot more smarter people than I am. So I would say that one point and that one person has taught me a lot about hard work and discipline. But really that humility in business can go a long way, and being a better listener than a talker is in a lot of cases better off for you,
Yeah.
especially for me.
Uh,
Because I will overpower a conversation if you give me a window.
well, truly though, that is where your passion comes through.
Yeah.
And so, what's his name, by the way?
Rob Boyette.
Rob. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It's good to give him a shout out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to tell him to watch now that his name's
Yes.
out there. He's going to be famous.
Yes. um, we since we talk about unfiltered
Hmm.
performance, what was the first like eye-opening uh, I'll say leadership fail or test to your ego that turned out to be an incredible teacher for you?
Yeah, I would say, let me think about this. There's so many different options here.
So many failures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just learning moments, right?
Yeah.
There was an example of a time, and what I learned about this, what I've learned about leadership over time is it's really about people. At the end of the day, it's very much a people business. How you treat people, how you reward people, how you hold people accountable. These sort of things. And I would say one of the things that's resonated with me is I had an example of a time. I'll leave the person nameless in this case, but person wasn't performing. It was during a very heightened time of business. I don't know, this is about 10 years ago. When I say heightened, a lot of work going on, midsummer, got to be done before school opens.
Mm,
And this person was going like above and beyond, but not performing their role in what I was expecting as the manager. So,
mm,
um, got to the end of the year, and when it came time for, to settle up at the end of the year from a merit perspective, this person ended up not being rewarded as they were anticipating, right?
mm,
Um, and what I learned from that, and it took me, getting to the end of the year, but what I took away from this is um, not like bad news is not getting better with time. How we focus on the people. So what I learned from the hard lesson I learned is these were conversations that I should have been having 6 months earlier, talking
mm,
about setting explicit expectations, talking about what are you doing and what are you not doing, and how is that impacting our business.
mm,
So what I learned is that, focusing on one, explicitly setting expectations, one,
mm,
holding the team accountable, even though they were going above and beyond in areas, um, they weren't doing what they were expected to do from under my leadership. Right.
yep.
And I connect that back to, you could look at it from an accountability perspective. You can look at it from a performance management perspective. But what I really looked at it when I chalked all that up was, this person thought they were doing exactly what they should have been doing. That's why they were
Mm,
doing these pieces, right? So me taking some ownership in this, what I would call a failure from a
mm,
people perspective. Um, I needed to do a better job of working with this person one on one, setting
mm.
expectations. Now that I've been in Wingspan, I understand what I'm doing, right? There I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what the competently incompetent, I think is what it is. Like I didn't know what I was doing then, but I felt it. Now I know what I
Yeah.
should be doing. Um,
Hmm.
but I learned about focusing on people
Mm,
should be my focus, right? And people will
mm,
make us successful. Now, how you do that is also a skill, but the learning I focused on was, focusing on one person a day, being more deliberate. The details matter when you're dealing one on one with people. And in that
yeah.
moment, I didn't do that, right? And I failed as a leader. Now, luckily that person's still with the company, so I'm sure that still sits with both of us, as a
Mm,
learning. But it really resonates with me as something that I still share with people to this day when I talk about, hey, it's more of a performance management. Well, actually, there's probably a lot of learnings you could tie to that one experience.
for sure.
it usually comes across in like how to effectively performance manage is a good um, context to put in that situation. But I would say
Hmm.
focusing on people is what resonated with me, and
Hmm.
how you focus on help, setting clear expectations and helping them perform.
Yeah. I heard this years and years ago, and do not know who to credit it to. Or I read it somewhere, that people are not the soft side
Yeah,
of business. People are the only side of business.
yeah, 100%.
And even in the discussions now and the work with AI and, um, marketing to AI or just how you're using AI as a teammate. Like people are still the buyers. So in your everyday exchanges that you're having, when you're collaborating, influencing, all the things, um, people are on the other side of that equation.
Hmm.
And so, um, don't continue, don't start. And I've talked to specific leaders about this, like stop working to farm out your communication to AI, to Copilot, when it's what's being produced in that exchange is so important.
Yeah, it's interesting the emotional human side of like I get frustrated. I love using AI, but every time I get a chat bot, it drives me insane because it can't sense that I guess I'm not competent enough to use or talk to the chatbot, but it can't sense my emotion and my frustration at
Yes.
the end of the day. So uh, that's a huge part of the way we interact is our emotions, and
Hmm.
you kind of lose it with AI and where the world's heading.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Perfect segue. Siemens is a Titan, and of course, Titans have friction. Before you and I partnered up about what, not 20 months ago.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
Yeah. What was the behavioral BS that was happening in the business that was painful to see, for you to see or experience?
Yeah, and it's such a great question. I s- even 20 years. It feels like 20 years. 20 month 20 months in. Uh
I've heard that before.
yeah, it's interesting we deal with problems every day in a business like Siemens, but any business really, and it's really what I've learned and what I was experiencing before is, everyone wants to focus on the process, the tool, the widget, and then you spend, I mean, years focusing on, hey, let's remold the process, let's change the process, let's change the widget. And it's like you think about how much energy and we spend focusing on those things. And then for me, coming into the Wingspan program and partnering with you and Ivan and your team, what I would say it's really opened my eyes to is that, there's always going to be process. There's always going to be a tool. There's always going to be a widget or something you have to deal with regardless of the business. But going back to the people, there's those that just figure it out. And really
Yeah.
what you look at it at the end of the day, okay, you have these people that are figuring out and these people that are not, the behaviors of those people are what's driving the outcomes. And I use myself as an example in my business. Like I was a user of I support an operations center. There was a time when I was a user of the operations center, and it was like, well,
Hmm.
man, how am I able to be successful in this environment, right? And it's my behaviors were creating outcomes, not the processes, not the workflow. My ownership, my people skills, my me as a person, taking ownership, understanding my expectations, holding myself accountable, my peers accountable. It's really the behaviors are the most impactful pieces of business. And like I said, it's a great connection back to people. But so much is lost, especially in a world I mean, Siemens is an engineering company. We're a technology company. It's easy to get lost in the sauce, and everybody's an engineer and they think in a very process oriented mind. Whereas like, as we started this, I'm a bend the process around me to make me successful.
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
but it's challenging for me in my position because I have a very entrepreneurial spirit. I'm not an engineer by trade. I'm very extroverted. I'm very outgoing, but a
Hmm.
lot of my partners are engineers, right? Who
Hmm.
are very rigid in, following process, the details, and, it's how do you break that, not break, but how do you get them to think outside the box or put themselves in a different box per se,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
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 Um, but that I've learned that in the last 20 months, how much our behaviors and so much about what we're doing is impacting us far more than what the process is doing.
Absolutely. And it's related to what you were saying up front in the conversation, and um, is this so engineers, developers, highly technical professionals that come from those disciplines, they're when it comes to math, there's a right or wrong. There's a
Mm-hmm.
correct or incorrect. And so that's what they've been driving. It's what they've been rewarded and acknowledged for all this time. There is this right or wrong. And um, I I also look at I say that they have an academic education,
Mm-hmm.
whereas you have and other leaders that I just who are highly entrepreneurial, just like you. They make big things happen. They have an industrial education,
Mm-hmm.
not an academic education,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this. That's another thing that we work. I mean, for in lots of the organizations that I've worked with teams of leaders, there is this intersection of the engineers and then also the industrial educated. So, guys coming up through the trades,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely brilliant. They aren't as driven around the right or wrong because they were like, there really is no right or wrong. You make a decision, you get some consequences, you move on. And that's
Yeah.
what business is.
Yep.
You exercise ownership, you make a decision, you stand behind it, you handle the consequences, and you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when highly technical and often academically educated leaders are so overly focused on a right or wrong, that comes with a set of behaviors. Like some of them just they put a lot of energy into being right
Yeah.
or not being wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, and and the interesting piece about that and you and I've explored this with you, but now I'm exploring it with my team, is that
Mm-hmm.
there's re- maybe we are not following the process correctly. There's a behavior that is or is not happening in that, right?
Yes.
That I don't have to, and I've gotten to the point now, Kathy, with my team, is like, I don't want to hear the word process. Like
Yeah.
that's a burnt word, like that movie Four Christmases. Don't say that word.
Yeah.
If you say the word process around me, I'm gonna blow up.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, what are we not doing, and connect the behavior
Yeah.
at the end of the day? Because it's like the process isn't gonna go away. We may mold it, we may change it, but that's just more opportunity not to follow a new process. What are we not, or are we doing? Because, like I said, it often comes up when I'm like in my business, because there's with these processes, there's tons of successful people in our business doing the same things. Like, so
Yeah.
what's the separator? And it's the person doing the right
Mhm.
things and
Mhm.
exercising the right behaviors. And um, it's definitely been good for me though now, because I would say the one thing since working with you in the last 20 months is I can be very overpowering in that situation with introverted people.
Mhm.
And what I've learned is to, like I said, I've learned to be a good listener.
Mhm.
But what I've also gained is the right skills to be able to be a more effective communicator. So
Mhm.
how I ask questions, the type of questions that I'm asking, tailored to the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different conversation when you start asking questions that you're going to get, not that I'm looking for the right answer. I'm looking for a more effective, more productive answer to our conversation or discussion. Now, that's a totally different, I would say, at least for me and a lot of my team who've also partnered with you, is we're having more productive conversations at the end of the day. Um, just because now we're talking differently than we would have in the past. So it's been a a fun ride. So, and we're starting to see it transform, which is also really, it's, for me, the biggest motivator that I have is, and why I'm in the role that I'm in is people. And what I've seen over the last 20 months, and I would say the last 3 years of being in the role that I'm in, is really seeing transformation of people
Mm,
using these skills and behaviors that we talk about, right? That either weren't being exercised to their full capability before, or like I said, some of it maybe we were doing that and we just didn't understand what we were doing. Now we do. So it's like
yeah.
knowing what you're doing right. Now we can go replicate that.
Yeah.
So it's been super fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know what you're saying about just how rewarding and exciting. I mean, seeing that and being a small part of it with people. That was my gateway drug. That's why I started Wingspan.
Yep.
So building strong, healthy performance combined with another, major restructuring within the giant that is Siemens. What does it really take personally and professionally to get that needle to move?
Yeah, that's a lot of stamina. You got and resilience. Um, it's an interesting. I would say there's definitely a point between the vision of the company, our president, CEO, wherever you are in that, and really making that connection to the people. Like, how do you translate this, big, Siemens one tech company vision into the day-to-day activities of my people who are like on the ground individually contributing job by job.
Hmm.
Um, I would say the one thing that I've seen in these transformations where they have failed and where they're successful, one is my or whoever's in this role or in a role, their ability to translate that vision. But I would say the most that's important. So why are we doing this? And then being able to explicitly communicate and have a conversation about how is this affecting me and what should I be doing to contribute to the success of what we're talking about.
Mm.
And oftentimes, and I was in this position. You were probably in this as you were coming up in your career, where you go into a town hall and you listen to your VP or president tell you about the financials and this new vision, and your like eyes are rolling back, thinking, "What does this have to do with me?" Like,
Yep, absolutely.
I got to go put this brick or run a piece of conduit or pull a wire. Like, you want to increase by $1 billion. Okay, my job is like, I work 9 to 5. I can only, I only make so much money. Um, so the ability to really translate that vision and then set the expectations around how are we going to get there? Well, how is my performance going to, not my performance, but each of our performance going to contribute to the larger picture, really is a skill set, and then hold the team to that at the end of the day, right? So when things start to slip or they're not happening, or when things are happening, recognizing how did we perform. We tend to focus on the negative side of business. That's, when you talk about it, it's like, well, what about the successful? What generated successful business? But for me, it's that translation, and then really being able to connect the dots for managers, supervisors, the individual contributors on the ground, doing the work. And it's I would say definitely in the corporate world, it's definitely lost on why are we doing the things that we're doing? How are we connecting these dots? How are we all contributing to the larger success of the organization,
Mm.
at the end of the day?
Yeah, I love that. This focus that you have on people, you may or may not realize this, though. Heather and Mike and I continue to get an email or text message from leaders on your team sharing how working with Wingspan is impacting their lives, which is just amazing. As you continue to pour into and invest in 100 plus, I've lost count, 100
Mhm.
plus leaders around you, what what impact were you hoping to have?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I would love to say that, I would say my goal in this is to make better people at the end of the day,
Mm,
um, that I can reap the rewards off temporarily while they're in my team, right? Because
mhm,
my goal for all of my team, from my direct people that I work with all the way down to, the contributor that's 5 levels below me, would be to
yeah.
see all of them grow and move on. I've been with Siemens for over 20 years now, so I'm vested in seeing our company be successful. And if I'm being honest, most of the people 20 years from now won't work for Chris. Or maybe in a perfect world, they won't work for me. They will have grown and took on other roles out into the organization. And, I said, me working with you guys for 20 years, I've seen a significant impact in just my direct business with my team. So if it's like, if, you can plant a seed in each one of those people, and then they go out there, maybe they don't, they become a manager and they don't use Wingspan as a partnership, but they practice what they've learned. It's,
Mm.
it's very easily practiced once you learn it. I won't say easily. It's easy to know what you should be doing, but then in practice, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
But for me, that's what I'm investing in is people at the end of the day, right? Is, there's tons of leadership things you can do out there, but it's like, do they all matter? Do they all make an impact? Maybe to some level. I would say but what we've seen with our team is this is not making you a better leader. It's just making you a better person at the end of the day, right? Whether you go home and you have a more effective communication, conversation with your partner, whether you're at the grocery counter and you're like, hey, I'm an introverted person, but I'm going to try to be more outgoing because I have a goal. This helps you do that. It helps you in your personal, professional. And I would say some of like, I don't think my wife likes the fact that I use Wingspan with her, not on her.
Good one.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, why are you asking me all these questions? But for me, that was my ultimate goal, was to create better people at the end of the day. And yeah, it's an investment that, Siemens is enabling us to make, but we get to reap all that positive collateral, and that's why we're doing it. But that's not why I personally do it. I get to see people grow and also have a major impact on our business. And for me, when we think about the Wingspan version of what our team's learning, it was really too also about all of us speaking the same language.
Mm,
There's tons of programs out there you could invest in. Uh, for me, this was the most, like, I was able to take my learnings and immediately apply it
mm,
and have an impact. And the impact may be small, right? Maybe my conversation is just different than it was yesterday.
mhm.
But now, as I've practiced and I'm using it, like you're saying, you're getting these emails from, and I get them from my team as well, but you're getting them from our team.
Oh, good.
Um, what they're seeing is their conversations are more productive, right? The
Mm,
outcomes are better. The experience is better. Like I said, if I go back to, you asked me, hey, what was, that something you learned? If I was using, advancing questions, if I was setting expectations, if I was holding, and I was a supervisor at the time. So this was many earlier in my leadership journey. Um, but had I known the things I know now, I would have been a lot more effective in managing a situation that I probably wasn't prepared to manage. Like I just didn't manage it. Um,
mhm,
right. So for me, it's also getting younger, not younger in age, but younger in tenure,
mhm.
um, leaders connected to it quicker. So we're not creating the same challenges, right? And we've even stepped it down a level further by getting our direct contributors involved in it so that they're
Mhm.
doing these things now. Um, but for me, to answer, kind of long answer to a quick question was about is really impacting people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love to hear that you're also hearing it because it matters for you to know that you're impacting your investment, and of course, it's Siemens investment. At the end of the day, though, you advocated, you stayed in the ring to make sure that this happened and beyond, stronger performance
Hmm.
for the business, their lives are better. They're more
Yeah.
satisfied, they're more excited about their lives and their relationships on the home front, and that is very special.
And that's a question I mean, because I get tons of requests like to take training, to do meetings, to do in person, and my whole team is virtual. So it's like to do in person things is difficult. And the first question I always ask everybody is, what is the ROI?
Yeah.
And it's not me judging anything. It's like, you tell me how you're going to use the learning.
Mhm.
And we've done dish training, we've done these different trainings, and it's like, it will come fast forward a year, and I'm like, oh, hey, guy, because I've taken a lot of those leadership trainings, and it's like, oh, when was the last time you actually practiced disc?
Mm.
Uh, 11 months ago, when like right when I walked out of the room, and I haven't done it since. So to
Mhm.
me, this is something that you can, which is why I like it, is you use it. You're talking to people all day, every day in our business, whether it's in business or whether it's your friends, whether it's your kids, your wife, your whatever. It just teaches you how to have a more productive conversation. And then when you come into business, then you can apply all the other pieces of it, which really move the needle at the end of the day. So it's, yeah.
Beautiful thing.
Hmm. Definitely is.
Well, and of course, you lead by example, and
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why we're here.
Hmm.
And in our one-on-ones, you never, come in and check the boxes. You come in and you confess.
Hmm.
you you wholeheartedly receive being challenged and being supported with accountability. So when I'm pressing on you, you receive that in a thoughtful and sincere way, and immediately act on it. What's been your most like surprising shift in your inside game?
um, let's think. I am definitely, it doesn't matter the interaction that I'm in. I am more thoughtful about having meaningful interactions, regardless of what that is, right? So, when you learn what an advancing question is, and when we think advancing, we always think, a lot of times, because we're practicing this in business, so we think, hey, I need an advancing question, accountability, performance, those things. But it's actually more than that. I use it in my personal life, not to advance my conversation, but to be a better communicator, like to be a more empathetic person, to be a more genuine person, and like asking genuine questions that I could ask in a close-ended question. But um, it's really taught me to be a more genuine person, and how I'm more thoughtful about the questions I'm asking. I kind of tongue-in-cheek joke about my wife hates it, but I actually practice it at home a lot, because we often empty our tanks at work, and then when we go home they get everything that's left over, and
Yeah.
it's very yes no short, very small talk
Same,
interactions,
same
and
questions.
yeah, oh, how was your day, oh, blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, we're back in the routine again, okay, I see.
Hmm.
you know um so that's and it's crazy to me, because every question I ask, I'm asking myself, or I'm telling myself, that's not an advancing question. Ask it differently. That's not when I'm writing an email or sending a text message or asking a question. So, and
Hmm.
and some could hear that and be like, oh man, that sounds like a chore. And I would say, no, I'm having much more genuine conversations with people,
Hmm.
both personally and professionally. But I do feel sometimes like, man, I ask myself the same question all the time. Is this an advancing question? But it's been significantly positive to see myself
Hmm.
shift. Um, and that's all internal, right? Nobody's, in our team is, we always jokingly will say that's not an advancing question, but I'm internally doing it all the time. And I'm
Yeah.
also listening to, it's interesting because I also listen to the people around me, and not that I'm judging their conversations, but I am kind of measuring the conversation and the interactions on,
Hmm.
man, we could have managed that differently. We could have asked different questions. We could have been more productive. Oh, now I got to have another meeting to talk about the same topic because we didn't ask productive questions. So I find myself doing that internally all the time. Like even in right now, you and I sitting here talking, listening to your questions, I'm thinking about that. Um, so it's been that's an interesting internal thing that I do now.
Well, and I love what you're saying too about just more meaningful, more genuine. That is you're practicing advancing questions so that you're producing more meaningful exchanges. And
Hmm.
of course, one of the reasons I named them advancing questions wasn't just to advance the thinking, advance the work or the decision. It was to advance the relationship.
Yeah,
And so that's what you're doing, which is people comment on, you know,
yeah.
definitely people are commenting. In fact, there are lots of people that want to be Chris Locke when,
I
when
didn't know that.
like when they grow up,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and you keep raising the bar. So what like unapologetic challenge would you give them as they aim to advance as a business leader?
It's interesting. I would say, and this is me looking at my organization, and I would say successful leaders is not being complacent and always raise the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at successful, and I'll talk about industry, the big people that we talk about. In leadership comparison, I look at like, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Elon, like these are guys running industries. I'm
Mm-hmm.
one company in an industry, right? I could say the same thing about Roland Bush, our CEO is, if you become complacent, you become non-relevant and you fade away. Right. Look
Mm-hmm.
at like the examples of industry leaders, Blockbuster and now Netflix. Right. So Blockbuster should have raised the bar 20 years ago and maybe they'd still be around. Right. So for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
when I see, and I say this to my leaders all the time, is be an entrepreneur. And that what I'm really saying is always be looking for ways to grow your business, not just own a business and be an owner of a business, but how can you grow your business, whatever that is? It could be something very small. So for me, it's not being complacent. Always raise the bar and I say this to they're like, oh, everybody on my team is really good. Then your bar's not high enough because everybody on the team can't be an all-star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, raise the bar and somebody will rise to the top when you raise the
Yeah.
bar. And now not everybody is good. Only the people
Mm-hmm.
that raised that rose up. And that's to me how I view my business and growing my team, moving my needles is when we're all good, then we're going to raise the bar again. And when we're all good again, we're going to raise the bar again. And then we're going to take on a new challenge because, hey, we mastered all the things we were good at. Let's take on something that we're not good at and let's make that good. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
for me,
Yeah.
that's what I would challenge other leaders. I challenge my leaders in my company and my team. But I would say for other leaders that are listening to this is it's really not don't be okay, just being okay.
Yes.
Push for more, you know?
Yeah. Mediocre.
Um,
Ivan and I used to have this on our website. Like, mediocre sucks. Like,
yeah, that's a great shirt. Like who wants to be second place? Like,
yeah.
you could, yeah, I heard this joke. It was like third place is happy or bronze is happy to be on the podium. First place is happy they won, but who wants to be second place? Right? Like if you're third, you're happy to be there, right? I made it on the
Yeah.
podium. But if you're second,
Yeah.
like, that's like the first loser. You know what I mean? So be the winner. Um,
Yeah. So speaking of first place, second place, third place, we all know these muscles are coming from somewhere. So how how does like coaching CrossFit
mhm.
help you like keep your edge for tackling the complexity in a giant like SIB?
It's so I guess there's two pieces there. I would say CrossFit in general. not the coaching, but I'll say the sport or the working out. I don't do it for sport. I'm not that good, but I do it to be healthy is hard, right? And there's plenty of hard things to do out there. And what I would say CrossFit teaches me is doing hard things makes you resilient. So
Mm.
there's not a lot of hard things I show up to work and be like, this is going to kill me. Right. This is, there's
Yeah.
bad days, there's good days, bad days, there's bad things. And sometimes business isn't great, but it's not going to kill me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So doing hard things often just makes you resilient. Coaching CrossFit, is I've coached my whole life. I have kids. I coached Little League and all these different sports. Coaching adults is probably the hardest thing to do because, for anyone that has a service, we pay for that service. So here's a person that's coming to see you. They're paying you to be there. They don't have to be there, right? So trying to convince them or coach them or partner with them is very challenging because adults don't like to
Mm.
do things they don't want to do. They're not like kids that, your mom said you had to be here, so go run a lap, right?
Yeah.
When you tell an adult to go run 400 meters and like, I don't really feel like running today. Okay. Like, so I would say what it's actually taught me, and the reason I got into coaching CrossFit was during coming out of COVID and moving into a remote working environment. Like,
Mm.
my personality, I need to be connecting with people all the time. And if I'm not, I just go into like a depressed state.
Yeah.
So I got into coaching so I could connect with people. And then what I
Mm.
really learned coming out of that is how to more effectively communicate to people. Because we talk about this in Wingspan too, about giving constructive feedback. Well, all coaching is constructing constructive feedback at the end of the day. And what CrossFit coaching has taught me is there's plenty of cues you can give a person that are not. A lot of our coaching is verbal coaching. A lot of CrossFit coaching is verbal, tactile,
Mhm.
showing a person how to do it. So it's really taught me how to be more constructive in how I give feedback.
Mm.
Especially, as an employee at Siemens, you kind of, in a lot of cases, you have to listen to your manager, but doesn't mean that's just what you should lean on. So coaching
Mhm.
CrossFit has helped me better communicate setting expectations, right? I have to explicit and doing it in a manner. Adults lose attention very quickly, right? We're like, cats. So you can't stand at the board and talk for 15 minutes, or you can, but
Yeah.
you're going to lose people, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be quick. You got to be explicit. You got to then coach and hold them accountable. And, so it's interesting how it translates. But like I said, it all connects to people and more effective communication at the end of the day. So yeah, that's what I would say is coaching has taught me. But
No.
definitely coaching adults is
Yeah.
is challenging.
And so for all of our Wingspan advisors, can you imagine when you're the one making the decision, and so you have all these adults
Oh,
that are not paying, and they not make the decision.
oh yeah,
So
definitely.
so so let's say you're at the airport. You do a lot of travel. You travel all over the world. You're at the airport, and someone's talking about Chris Locke. They don't know you're there. They're talking about Chris Locke. What are you hoping they would say?
Like, ask me or
No, there's two strangers talking, and you overhear them. They don't realize you're there,
oh, okay. Oh, so
and
I'm
they're
listening to them talk about me. I see what you're saying.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's interesting. I I would hope that I would hope that they would say that I was a passionate, caring. I would hope that they would not lead with anything that was business related. Like, man, I really love the way we
Mm.
moved the P&L last year. uh,
Yeah.
I would say that I would hope that they would say, man, I really like the way that he cared about me
Mm.
as a, and that's one of the things when I think about CrossFit and people ask me all because they're like, man, you're an executive leader and you work for Siemens, you got a full-time job and salary and like everything you could want. Why do you coach CrossFit at the end of the day?
Mm.
Like why would you do that? Like you don't need the money. I don't even get paid to do it. Like And
Yeah.
it's because I want to have an impact on other people's lives.
Mm.
So when the person's that I want to at the end, or say at my funeral one day, we're all going to pass away. Man,
Hmm.
I hope that there's a room full of people saying, man, he really had an impact in my
Mm.
life. Right. And again,
Mm.
I coach CrossFit people. I uh, lead people, and I've led thousands of people. Uh, some are not going to have the best, they'll be there, but they're like, that ain't the guy that I met. I'm sure those guys will be there. But I hope that most of the group can say, man, he really had an impact on me. And then
Mm.
also families and other people, that's, we often forget that, we only spend about 8 hours at work, and then we go home. Like I said, we carry the weight of our jobs home.
Yeah.
I would hope that their families had good interactions because it was a
Mm.
positive experience at work that they get to take home with them.
Mm.
So that's what I would say. I mean, he really made a positive impact on me, whether it's professionally or personally, doesn't really matter, but he really had an impact on me personally.
Well, that's the truth for me. You continue to have an impact on me.
Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. All right. Ready for our rapid fire round?
Let's do it. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'll do it.
Okay. Burpees or thrusters?
Thrusters all day. Anything with a
All
barbell.
day.
Yes.
Anything with a barbell. Okay.
Yeah.
Black coffee or pre-workout?
Pre-workout.
Because you work out in the evenings.
Yeah, but I also I don't drink coffee. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
I'm not a coffee guy.
Uh, Data driven or gut feeling?
Always gut feeling. The data
Love
can
it.
always be wrong.
What's your walk up song?
Oh man. There's a song, I want to say it's Welcome to the Jungle by it's Guns N' Roses, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
I gotta look it up. It's
I
Welcome to the Jungle. Yeah.
Welcome to the jungle. Ooh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, 4 a.m. or 11 p.m.
I'm gonna stay up as long as possible. I'm gonna get up as early as possible, stay up as long as possible. But
You.
if I had a choice, I would say 11 p.m.
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
so funny. That I know you soak every minute
I,
out of the day.
my family hates it. They are not morning people, and like I said, you're gonna get plenty of time to sleep when you're gone. Like suck every hour out of the day.
Favorite high carb meal after a brutal workout?
Oh, favorite high carb meal. Um, I don't know. That's a tough one. Rapid fire. I would say anything with pasta. I would say
Ah,
any sort of pasta would be good. High carb.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
nice. And final words for leaders listening in.
Final words. I would say, and I was literally having this conversation with a mentor of mine this morning with leaders, is really focusing on your people. Uh, and when I say focus on them, I don't mean just lift them up. I mean,
Mm.
really, when we talk about wingspan and we talk about, setting explicit expectations, holding the teams accountable, giving them constructive feedback, supporting them, partnering with them. All the conversations are not good. When I say I love working with people, I'm not talking about all the good conversations we're having.
Yeah,
Some
not
of my
all.
best conversations with my best leaders and my best people that I've worked with are some pretty uncomfortable. Some people could look through the window and say, "Man, I don't think that relationship's going to make it." uh, but at the end of the day, it takes a very open, especially in some of the conversations we're having, is a lot of this is not personal. Business is hard. Working in this sort of environment is not for the faint of heart. It's challenging. Um, but how you support your people, how you show up every day, you ask, it takes a lot of stamina. It takes a lot of resilience because every day is not great. Actually, majority of days are not great. But you enjoy the grind. But I really feel like where I've seen the most success for me is getting everyone around me to be successful. Then I don't have to lift as much weight at the end of the day. They can
Mm.
do it as a team. Um, And I try to get my team to understand that, which is, it's a little more challenging to get, great leaders want to do a lot of it themselves, but the magnitude of, we each probably have like 10 or 15 people that directly report to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's 10 or 15 times what I can produce. Uh,
Yes.
and that's really what I've seen. And I've gotten a lot better in the last 20 months at how I do that. Um, but I would say that's really where the focus needs to be, is making them successful. But how you do it needs to be very deliberate and focused, and showing up and really also holding yourself accountable. Uh, it's easy for me to say, set expectations, hold them accountable. Do I do that every day? No. I got to show up, and I gotta do what I've committed to, which is tough, because when the pressure gets put on, can you hold it long enough and do, because it does take patience as well. Like,
Yeah.
Siemens doesn't have patience. Like, shareholders don't have patience. We need to get from here to here in a certain amount of time. And you're trying to balance culture and all this stuff and the employee experience, while also trying to drive, the business at the same time. So, but I would say for those out there listening, it would be really put your energy into developing your team, and they'll return it tenfold back to you.
Mm, mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you are just an exceptional example of leading without the BS. Chris Locke, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Being here.
It's always fun to be with you, Cathy.
Same.